Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Friday, May 23rd at 11:36 a.m. Now we are basically week one into Red Guppies on the DXY, on the weekly, of course. Week one on the weekly, Red Guppies. Now, obviously, there's bearishness that is expressed from a monthly vantage point, as well as shorter time frames. But on the weekly, it just so happens that it is Red Guppies that is presented from a technical indicator perspective. Now, there's endless indicators, there's endless technical details, abbreviated by the phrase technicals, endless technicals to look at, but this is one that is color coded. So for the people in the back of the class, red is good, green is bad on this chart. So this is a very Asian chart, if you know what I'm talking about. Um, it is there anything simpler to be said? Is there a way to more simply say it? The guppies are red, the dollar is coming down, which means from a lot of perspectives, the system is fracturing. Japan's having basically a monetary crisis, but they've been kind of having a crisis for decades. And there's going to be a lot of complexities. Look at the US fiscal situation. So there are all these headlines about how bad everything is. And that brings me to really, just tongue in cheek type posts like this, where what's his name? Tomatoa from Moana, and he will gladly tell the story in song form because that's just the funniest scene. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. So this is going to be a disaster. Let me explain. And this is obviously a bullshit tongue in cheek thread. There is no thread. It's just me poking fun at everyone that sees first order things. On the first order, the US bond market is doing stupid stuff. And the tariff argument is finally pulling the 10-year down, back down to 4.5. So over the last weeks, and if not a few short months in 2025 so far, the bond markets around the world have sold off. So there's a lot of mechanics that are in play when you sell bonds, and obviously interest rates go up. But why are you selling bonds? Is it you don't want exposure to sovereign solvency issues, which is they're going to print it anyway. So the whole point is, it's all of it's noise, all of it's noise. So that is the realization I had all those years ago that all that matters is you get your currency units and you establish your home, you establish your transportation capacity and optimally your off-grid capabilities with regard to energy and food production. It doesn't matter if it's all over. There's no financial way to win, or there's no significance to financially winning if it's all over. And that's why I've had streams of late that if you're betting that it's all over and that the bond markets are going to fail and that countries aren't going to repay their debt, and everyone and people from like a gold and Bitcoin community are like, oh, they're going to somehow you're going to be able to pay for things in Bitcoin and gold, and it's the only thing that's going to survive as a money. Yeah, okay. Do you know what happens in that transition? It's a post-apocalyptic Mad Max scenario. So the bet is either that it's all over, or you get as many currency units as you can, so you can get yourself in a good situation with regard to consumables and shelter and protection. Okay. And to do that, we've been waiting a long time. We've been waiting years for these red guppies on the weekly. And we finally have them. You are staring at red guppies on the weekly. Last time the guppies were red on the weekly was August of 2020. Now, obviously, the system fractured in March of 2020 from a markets standpoint, and then radical intervention occurred, and you had your first leg of an interventionary rebound. And then, and that was pretty much here, March of 2020. But then things started to settle in towards the summer. What was 2020 called? Summer of 2020 called DeFi summer, when everyone started to realize some shit's going on. And then what occurred between August and basically, what was it, end of November, December? I think it was end of November. August to the end of November was face melting, ferocious financial activity. And and here you go. And that's what happened in September. Then you had your rip up a little bit, your bounce into November, and then things fell over into January. And then January, here was your fake out until half of the year, and then things rallied again. This is your double top in Bitcoin right here. So the whole point is that was the observation I've had for some years at this point, that everyone talks gibberish, or everything is meaningful stories, the way Luke and folks talk about how the system is broken and how it's all going to play out. I like the stories, but it's all bullshit from a capital management standpoint. And it all is presented itself in color coded format here with a double top in Bitcoin when you see the DXY bottoming here. I don't know. I'm sure other people look at these technicals like this. It's pretty obvious. Red guppies, double top in Bitcoin. And we've been waiting for how many years? Last time we saw red guppies was August of 21. What happened at the end of the year? I mean, you can see it in the Fed chart. What happened at the end of the year in, no, it's January of 22. So at the end of the year in the December of 21, Fed liquidity start to roll over. So if you go back to the DXY, this is a forward-looking indicator of shit starting to roll over. So when the DXY finally bottoms, all right, the clock starts ticking. And then you could look for a confluence suggesting, oh, it's going to finally roll over. You would have missed a fair amount of, of bullish financial activity at the end of 2021 if you followed this DXY as a forward looking indicator. Um, so what does that mean? Does it mean, oh, you need additional information to really sell the Pico top? No, you're going to drive yourself freaking nuts trying to sell the Pico top. You're going to drive yourself nuts trying to buy the Pico bottom. And this is why everyone's story on social media is noise, because they're going to try and drive themselves nuts trying to make better and better and better decisions. And that's why you need an alternative. You need a simpler methodology. And it's pretty, like, how much simpler can I state it? Oh, red guppy on DXY, good. Oh, red guppy, good. It's just pretty damn simple, right? Red guppy, good. Green guppy, bad. Okay. So, and then you got your three rules. There's nothing else to do. Simplified the whole equation over the last couple of years and made it super duper easy for everybody to manage this insanity. And look at the polls I put out over the last couple of days. People are going to drive themselves nuts trying to figure out what to do and what to buy. Meanwhile, you got stuff like this going on. You got French Hill and plenty of other folks from the government. I'm sorry, what? The United States government saying how stable coins are going to change everything? And people are still trying to figure things out. I mean, at this point, you realize they're telling you what's going to happen. Now, if you realize we've been talking about this for some years prior to government officials, especially during the Biden administration, but we were early. Being early is often indistinguishable from being wrong, but in hindsight, right, we made some good decisions, mostly good decisions, some bad decisions, but mostly good because we could see how the portfolio performance has been since the end of 2022. But now at this point, between 2022 and 2025, you got the politicians on TV telling you you were right. You were early, but you were right. Got them politician on TV telling you were right, and folks are on social media still trying to figure shit out. I don't get it. I mean, you could bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You could tell people what's going on in crypto, but you can't tell them what's going. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. Everyone's trying to still figure out what's going on, and that's why I just further find comfort in the five businesses of crypto because there's only five businesses, and the biggest business is stablecoins because you have the government telling you the biggest business in crypto stablecoins because we understand how the dollar is made. And that's literally the title of today's stream. How is the dollar made? If you understand how the dollar is made, you understand how the world works, and you understand how big of a business it is. And now you have the government telling you you're right. Stablecoin good, big business. How to invest in stablecoin. Okay. What are the stable coins? Well, frankly, Liquidity V1 and now V2. It's big business. CRVUSD, Abracadabra, Magic Internet Money, survived 2022. Frax, an entire ecosystem. The entire protocol is based around the bills in Congress. You can't invest in Circle. You can't invest in Tether. So that's obviously invalidated from an investment standpoint. But guess what? You could literally invest in the three names that I just mentioned, and you could have done it years ago in 2024 when it was Pico Bottom in November of 2024. So you had to be early, and early you could have been wrong. Early is often indistinguishable from being wrong when things are depreciating. But the government's telling you that you were right now. As in, today, the government's telling you that you were right. Yet there's still a question out there. Oh, beam coins on Solana. I mean, what the fuck are people thinking? I mean, you know why everyone. Let me explain something. And what everything is so simple, and that's how you know you have a correct argument because there's simplicity. I tell everyone in my software engineering when I'm doing software engineering for work. I tell everyone if we're having a complicated topic, stop and make it simple. If you're doing code that's complicated, stop and make it simple. So you're making it complicated, you're wasting your time, you're wasting everyone else's time. Whatever story is correct is simple. I wish I had a market cap list. I don't have a market cap list. I'm not going to get it on TradingView. But what's the market cap of, for instance, Frax, Convex, Curve, Aave? Aave is the highest market cap at almost 4 bill, three and change bill. And that's confirmation and validation that everyone still doesn't get it. They don't get it. Aave is, and it's the story of Aave that I've said. They're one of the largest banks in the United States by deposit, and they have almost $40 billion in deposits, and their market cap is less than 4 billion. So their price to NAV, so to speak, price to deposits is zero point 0.1. So the price to deposit their total the, the total market cap to the amount of deposits and the consumption and trust for the people using the product is zero point 0.1. And the government's on television, on CNBC and mainstream media telling you that this is some this is correct. You're right. This is some big shit going on. I mean, Buffett would say it was a price to NAV, like net how much does a company own, the total valuation of a company, like book value. All right, fine. This isn't that kind of inspection because technically Aave owns nothing. There's nothing to own, but this is like market cap to total consumption or acknowledgement of what it is, because people wouldn't be depositing on it if they didn't have a trust for it or understand what it is as a product and a financial service. So this is comparable conceptually, philosophically, to price to NAV, price to book. Buffett was young, maybe he would have been like, holy shit, point one. So and then you do stuff like Curve is at what, point five. Total deposits are basically 2 bill between foreign exchange and liability printing. So what, 200 mil in deposits for 250 mil deposits for CRVUSD, and like 1.8 bill in deposits for liquidity in the DEX. And their market cap's at a bill. So they're at point five, they're less than one. These businesses are price to deposits of less than one. I'm done. I'm done. I don't do it for me. Maybe I'm here just venting on how the, the the failure to recognize the obvious, that is the reality of social media. Okay, but I'm here telling you, unfortunate for you, it's a small minority of people, and we can't do anything. We can't individually make any of these businesses become recognized. But what we can do is observe it for ourselves, the reality of what these things are, how obvious it is. And you got the big banks running around at hundreds of billions of dollars of market cap. I mean, what does that put Aave in potential for? A 50x, a 100x, 100 bill market cap? I mean, the potential for a 100 bill market cap is kind of obvious. And that's just on current global situational terms, like what happens if everything does multiples, because total currency supply globally needs to expand to nominally service whatever insane debt obligations are going to evolve into over the next decade. So the whole look at the trillion-dollar companies. Historically, I remember when I was growing up, we never had trillion-dollar market cap companies, and all of a sudden we do on the equities, the U.S. All right, so 100 bill market cap for these crypto protocols doesn't seem like much. I expect by 2030 you got a laundry list of 100 bill market cap. Why not? I mean, what was it? I don't remember the history of like top 10 precisely, but I remember but in 2021 was the top 100 were 10 bill market cap. Was that right? Is that right? That may be right. All right, so the top 50, uh, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 bill, and the top 20 are 100 bill, and then the top 10 are like 250 plus. I don't fucking know what things are going to be. All I know is they're going to be higher and bigger than what most people think they're going to be, because most people don't understand what they're going to be. Because then it's going to catch everyone off sides, and then this whole place is going to monetize through the roof because you got the government on TV telling you that's what's going to happen. I don't make the rules. They make the rules, and they're telling us what the game plan is. We just happened to see it a couple of years ago. Okay, rant over. Thank you very much. Critical mass. So, who was rational? Isn't that a good question? We'll find out over the next couple of years. Yeah, heading into 2030, you still have time. You still have time to figure this out, especially if you have capital. Now, obviously, things have gotten difficult for people. and things were significantly easier pre 2020. But I'm sure there will be a couple of folks that still figure things out before the economic singularity of 2030. Anyhow, Era, good morning. How are you? These to the Evelo can has been creeping up. Good to see. Velo is also appreciated meaningfully. Resupply also at 250. You see, everything feeds on everything as resupply goes up. There goes convex, and there goes curve, and there goes disruption of supply, which drives as curve price goes up. There goes all the fees for all the LPs, which drives liquidity. So it's the positive feedback loop, as folks would call it. So, you know, not here. So back in 2020, you had the positive feedback loop with convex coming online, and everything was starting to get fired up and all the mechanics. The positive feedback loop now is quite different. So if you have a bullish market environment, the positive feedback loop is going to be significantly, I mean, like astronomically more ferocious as compared to anything in 2021 because there's that much less supply and there's that much more curve federation infrastructure fully functional and there's that much more lendiness. It's just going to be that much weirder compared to anything anyone remembers in 2021. And if you don't remember 2021, you're new to this, that's another story. I don't know. That's another conversation. That this is where folks have to ask questions to try and understand what we folks remember from 2020 and 21. So that's why I do these streams to see if folks have questions. It's not. I tell these decent stories in my opening monologues as best as I can to try and help and be informative. But in the end, my favorite part of these streams over the years is people asking questions because that's the only way that the real meaningful things get answered. That for people, especially that don't know about 2020 and 2021, that have no experience about what happened in 2017 to 2019. What is the comparison between 2017 and 2019 and 2020 to 2022? Arrow, you've asked me about that quite a bit. And a lot of folks came into crypto in 2021 and have no experience with what was going on in 2019. And guess what? Folks that are about to hit crypto right now in 2025 that started in 2021 are about to get the 2019 experience because they are involved prior to basically the stuff that went down in 2020 because that's where we are cyclically pre-weird. Now, like imminently pre-weird at this point. Joel, morning cap, much pleasure. Era, did you listen to the most recent interview with Sam K about Frax? I have the same opinion I've always had. And I have the same lock I've always had. And I've had the same exposure I've always had. And I look forward to it reinflating to a higher level than what I even had back then. The all time high for what I owned in Frax was lovely. I like that very much. And my expectation generally is wherever I was at with regard to all time high in Frax, there'll be multiples of that when it reinflates. So every time I hear him, I realize to myself and I remind myself there's very few people that get it. He does. He talks about euro dollars and he understands what he produces, or his protocol produces, or the founders collectively, because it's a whole team and a whole infrastructure and a whole movement at this point. It's a big deal. It's the same thing. What is Curve? What's their Swiss company? Swiss, whatever. Anyway, the point is, there's a lot of people behind all this nowadays. It's not just like, you know, it's not a kid in the basement anymore. It's not Michael coming up with the first stable swap algorithm. Like he's the entrepreneur. It's just we're past that. We're past that because we have proven to be past that because we got the damn politicians on TV telling us we're past that. These are established organizations, established entities, established. And they're not centralized, they're decentralized. So how then you could question how they're funding themselves, how sustainable that funding is. But at this point, they know what's coming. So if they needed any motivation to continue what they're doing, they're investors in their own productivity, their own enterprise. And that's all you need. If I had the skill set to do what I to participate and be productive and iterate, I sure as hell would. And I'm just an investor. So and I'm a small investor, relatively small investor. So I can only imagine what the larger investors, how motivated they are to continue iterating and develop if they have those development skills. Sir Joe, President Accountant first, sir. Yes, sir. As soon. Good morning, Captain Tiger. Perhaps the valuations of these strange businesses is more like valuing a social network than a traditional asset, owning a business. Well, that's like Raul's type of methodology, where it's like it's all exponential and about total users, and you know, I don't like traditional valuations. They drive me nuts. Oh, it should be five multiples or 10 multiple, whatever valuation methodology people think. With regard to me and capital management, all I need to know is it fairly priced? Is it likely to be priced more or less in the future? Everything in the crypto market is microscopic pink sheets. And if you don't know what a pink sheet is, you haven't really gambled in equity. So these are microscopic, micro market cap. Fine, obviously a small cap, three and change $1 billion market cap. That's small cap. Everything less than like a bill is micro cap in equities land. Mid cap's 50 bill. I don't make the rules. These are micro mini organizations. If you apply that analogy that these are businesses, which I sure as hell do. So how do you value these things? Irrelevant. Higher. That's all that matters. Why? Because of rule number three. Pay me. They are. Great. They'll be valued higher in the future. They'll be paying in the future. Great. Win. Done. That's it. You don't need to worry about, oh, what are they going to be valued at in the future? Higher. Are they going to be paying in the future? Immutable and deterministic. Yes. What else is there to think about? Now we're back to square one with bias salary. Just the concept of cash flow valued more in the future. You're not going to get the multiples in the stock market. Realty Income Corporation paying 5.5% isn't going to go 10x on the money. They're not. That's not going to work. They're not going to be worth $500 billion. Okay. So now we're back to the conversation we surely had about how you're not going to get anywhere in the equities markets with regard to investing. And now we're starting to sound like Michael Saylor and how if you don't beat the Magnificent Seven, who cares? It's a shit investment. In which case, most things in equities markets won't beat the Magnificent Seven. So why invest in anything? And then Bitcoin's going to likely beat them. So why invest in anything in the equities market? Just invest in Bitcoin. And then you come to our conversation where it's like Michael Saylor's right. You might as well invest in Bitcoin. And then I bring in the type of story where I don't consider Bitcoin an investment. I consider it a cash. I'm like, all right, fine. Oh, what are the businesses that will outperform Bitcoin? And these are the businesses that I expect to outperform Bitcoin. Why? Because these are the biggest businesses on the planet. And Bitcoin doesn't produce cash flow. So I have a portfolio construct that works for me based on my goals and objectives. Anyway, I hope that helps. That's a lot to unpack and a lot of different points in a couple of sentences. So you think bribes for VLCVX will go back to 2021 levels? I don't know what the end game is for bribes versus cash flow, like transaction fees. I've thought about this a lot over the last years, and you all know that. So obviously it's a B2B product, the concept of vote rentals. And I know from a vote rental standpoint, you're going to flip flop between convex and base CRV, and now obviously uh, staked out. What are they called? Oh my God, there's so many. uh, So there's obviously this is another derivative, and obviously Yearn as well, but they have their bribing as well because they have their own token. So Yearn doesn't have that functionality the same way. So it's a derivative product, but not like what they offer. They have come a long way. Julian Bouteloup over the years, this product has iterated and transformed in tremendous ways to be what it is now titled. This wasn't what it was titled when it first launched. It's a lovely protocol at this point. So I think in the future you'll have vote rentals as a B2B product between Curve, Convex, and Stakedown. Now, how does vote rentals land as compared to base cash flow from transaction fees? Convex doesn't really get much. And that's why partially always preferred VECRV, because with VECRV, I get full cash flow and full vote rental. That was my sentiment. Um, and obviously, Tetranode preferred convex because he always said convex supply was limited and convex will always own more curve. Um, so therefore, he had unlimited exposure vis-a-vis convex. That was his argument. My answer to that was, all right, so let's go for the base layer and then Cleaver because Cleaver owns convex. So that was my hedge of the tetranode convex argument. Um, and I stand by this current structure. I sleep well at night. Yeah, my expectation is that you're going to see some weird numbers. My expectation. I expect to see weird numbers as well at the base VE curve level. Why? Because you got the government telling you things are going to get weird. So yes, 2021 levels. And I'm pretty sure you remember those numbers, and I expect them to be probably a little bit weirder than the 2021 level. Maybe a lot a bit weirder than the 2021 levels. I expect things to get so weird you're going to have stories to tell about how weird it gets. Why? Because we got stories to tell how weird things were in 2021. And I remember 2016 and 2017, and I got stories to tell how weird things were back then. But that was a different world. So things are going to be weird, but different weird. Better, worse, that's a subjective way to describe weird, but I expect things to be different. And to understand why things are going to be different, you need to understand the difference between pre 2019 and post 2020. And that's a story I've told, but that's a story for another time. How often do you rebalance your portfolio? I don't do anything. What does rebalance mean? Cash and investments. That's it. And I have plenty of investments, and the cash is produced by investments. And I don't understand the concept of rebalancing. That does not process in my methodology. The last thing I can't even remember the last thing I bought. I mean, maybe folks in Discord, because obviously folks. Oh, the last thing I bought was Liquidity. I bought like a 50 chip worth of Liquidity, which was down about 50%, and now they relaunched. So that was the last thing I bought. Was a Liquidity chip. I think before that it was Contango. I think that was the last thing I bought before Contango. I mean, what was this? Late 2024? Sounds about right. Q4 24, something like that. Both those were down 50%. By the time this market's over, the cycle over, whatever the cycle is, whatever people want to define the cycle to be, those things are going to be up 10 to 50x. People waste so much time overthinking things. They'll be up 10 to 50x and they'll be producing whatever percentage of cash flow, and you stack the cash flow. Keep it simple. Don't drive yourself nuts. And there's no such thing as rebalancing. I buy things. I own things. I Charlie Munger the shit out of these markets. Charlie Munger didn't know how to sell. Why am I going to sell something that's good? I'm going to sell something that's good? No, I own things. I bought them cheap. I'm going to own them. I appreciate them. I don't want to sell something that's good. Price goes up, price goes down. All that matters, cash flow goes up, cash flow goes down. When cash flow goes up, you have more money. When cash flow goes down, you have less money. What do you do when you have more money? You have a bigger savings account. When you have a bigger savings account, what can you do? You can invest more. When do you want to invest more? When prices are down. So this whole cycle thing isn't what people think it is. Stack cash on the way up, wait for things to collapse. You buy things when things are cheap. You need a savings account to buy things to invest. You need a savings account to also live. So don't forget to have a balanced cash and investment portfolio. The advisor, good morning. Much pleasure. Swiss steak. That's right. Tiger, Swiss steak. Listen, they got vested interest. They got plenty of VECRV. So they got to make sure that VECRV does well. And I'm sure that's not just governance. I'm sure there's also a lot of talks with. I'm sure there's political talks. I'm sure. I mean, look at Sam from Prax. He was talking with Cynthia Loomis the other day. All these, it's past. We're past the threshold, ladies and gentlemen. We. Let me be very clear. We were proven correct. Stable coins are the biggest business in crypto. Dollars are the biggest business on the planet. These are the best investments on the planet because you cannot own this in the stock market. There are no companies that give you this kind of exposure. There are no companies on the stock market that will give you this kind of cash flow. Therefore, deductively, these are the best investments on the planet. And that shouldn't get you excited. I say these things not to get people excited. If you're excited, you're having the wrong emotional response. What you should be is comfortable and be like, okay, great. Now I let time pass and let the market do what it does. And the market will monetize the crap out of the greatest investments on the planet. Simple. Sir, did you see the banks want to issue stablecoins? Yeah. Well, I was talking about um, French Hill talking about that, but it's everyone. Everyone's talking about that. And I reposted this stuff. You know, I reposted this stuff. Would be traded on Curve. So a lot of novice perspective would say, oh, is the government going to use Curve? That's not how markets work. Um, Curve exists, meaning whatever the government does, stable coins will be circulating and flowing and trading and being used everywhere. So as more exist, they'll find their way to every crack and crevice of these financial markets. So of course they're going to be used on Curve. And they're going to be used everywhere and anywhere you could possibly imagine or possibly think. They're just going to be used. So the permissionless markets, the ones we can actually own and invest in, are the thing to talk about, the thing to think about. Did I? Hey, Killis, good morning. The advisor, you said, did I? But I bought Velo. Did I buy? What was the order? Because I got those are some of my recent acquisitions. I got acquired some Velo, acquired some Contango, and I acquired some Liquidity. Liquidity doesn't pay anything, so that's speculative. Liquidity is like my Frax. It doesn't both don't pay anything. It's great tech, and if everything goes as planned, they're gonna pay a lot. So it's in the speculative bucket, speculative cash flow. So you size your position accordingly. Contango actually pays pretty well. I think I've stacked up about 15, 20%, uh, ROI already, which is pretty cool. That's nice. So I still like Contango. And that was a nice purchase. And even if I started to not like it, own it. It's my purchase. I made a purchase. Um, no, it doesn't. It pays nothing. So if you go over here to flows and wherever the hell I have liquidity, I have it somewhere. RFI concentrator. I have it somewhere. Where's my liquidity? Liquidity. Here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Launch V2. We'll go on the Liquidity app. Have my stake. Have my stake. Connect my app. Words. If you still haven't. Oh, I have to unstake. Untake your staking position. I have to unstake. So I got 27K. Yeah, there's nothing. You don't get it. There's peanuts. Peanuts. I gotta unstake everything. I see. They had to completely redeploy, and that was only a couple of days ago. So like yesterday, wasn't? So all right. So I got to swap it over to from Legacy V2 to V2. You don't get paid anything. Is my point. That's how it was before. So V2 earns from V1, and it's peanuts. It's peanuts. It's like 50. You're not getting paid like curve exposure. Same with Frax. You're not getting paid meaningfully. Uh, so that's the point, right? So it's the speculative revenue bucket. Um, but Velo does well. Velo's lovely. Where's Velo from a price perspective? A lot of people still hate on Velo, unfortunately. Up 100%. It's down at 3.6. No, almost 100%. The full retrace. But I think last week was like, what was the revenue? So someone could say I don't know, it was like $1,000 last week. That was nice. First time in a while I've seen that number. Oh, gotta reload. Very nice. There's a couple bucks stacked up there. Has some claims to do. Okay. I like the Velo. I like the Velo. The captain likes the Velo. I like the Velo because of the exposure. How well the protocol plays out. I wish it was around the 22. I really wish it could have experienced that complete collapse. That would have been nice. Anywho. All right. Which browser wallet do you use and how many hardware wallets should a person run in general? Everyone has to make their own OPSEC decisions. I think the most meaningful OPSEC decision is to be broke, which basically means fully invested and locked because operational security folks are targets that have lots of money because everything in life is a cost benefit analysis or a risk benefit analysis with regard to violent attacks. So who attacks someone for like $100, $500, $1,000? The big heists and the kidnappings and things like that are for millions of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the beauty of a portfolio that's completely locked is it's worthless. And this plays into like accounting that we've talked about. If you have locked positions that are provably impossible to sell, it's not really worth money at all. You can't sell it. If you had $50 million worth of VE curve, it's worthless. You can't sell it. Nobody could buy it. Nobody's going to buy it. There's no aftermarket market. It doesn't work like that. So that's the biggest operational security, in my opinion, that comes along with locked positions. No, VE is not transferable at all. It is locked in perpetuity. It is a purchase. It is not a position. Hope that helps. Browser wallets. I don't know. Just whatever you use, just use a hardware wallet. That's it. Use a couple of hardware wallets. Keep them secure and backed up. Metal, backup, seed phrases, whatever you do, make sure a seed phrase never touches a computer, stuff like that. Be smart. No, don't do silly things. Don't click on silly buttons. That's why less is more. You know, People that click on silly buttons are trying to do more. It should be a very, very hard thing to buy something or invest in something or own something because these are long-term strategic commitments. Like when I choose to lock Velo in perpetuity, it's gone. I mean, technically, someone could wait 4 years. That'd be crazy. It's worthless. And if you want to sell it on the open market, you got to take like a 30% haircut. That's crazy. So nobody in their right mind from an accounting perspective is going to say, oh, yeah, they're going to take a 30% haircut. No. So if you have like accounting rules that say it's locked in perpetuity, all right, great. You cover yourself from an accounting standpoint. From an OPSEP standpoint, that's still a big loss. It's still meaningful, 30%. I don't know. I find that that is a bit liquid, so that could be a security issue. Um, so that's why V curve is great from a security standpoint. Go figure, because it cannot be sold. So that's really good from a security standpoint. Vel is less secure from a security standpoint, personal security standpoint. Um, Buddy Lawrence, hi Cap, nice to catch you this morning. Any new ideas on Kava? No interest. It's completely off the radar. I just it's dead basically in my opinion. All of Cosmos is dead in my opinion, and that includes everything that everyone was interested in, Celestia Dimension. I retain my Cosmos exposure, which is Cosmos Chain, part of the Cosmos Hub ecosystem, um, because I'm stubborn and not naive, but it's not that whether I believe they will succeed or not, or do well or not is irrelevant because I have day-to-day commitment. I own something. Heck, I still have my Ren deposits because if they relaunch, they relaunch. And then that's the only way to buy Pico Bottom. Maybe some would call it naive or I don't think it's delusional, but that's my strategy. That's my methodology. I buy to own. A lot of folks may call that hodling, but that would not be serving or doing justice to the behavior. It's a complicated story to describe the behavior of buy to own. It's not a position, it's a purchase. It's not hodling. Hodling is a disservice. Do you use hardware wallets? No. Hardware. You always use hardware wallets and you always have them secure. They're not like just hanging out. You never use like a MetaMask or you never ever use a browser wallet like Rabby. Like here's Rabby, but you never use a wallet in Rabby. You're never ever ever using a software wallet on a phone. It's always a physical hardware wallet that plugs into. It plugs into the software wallet. Okay? You always every transaction, you're always having to confirm a transaction vis-a-vis your hardware wallet. That is the only acceptable way to engage with crypto and manage capital in crypto. Okay? Even if you locked, your disbursements will be no, you can't be drained because well, yeah, but how do you get a hold of someone's private? Did you click on something? That's not an operational security uh, consideration in the same regard as like, physical taking of capital. That's like you clicked on the wrong thing and your private keys are gone. How did someone get a hold of your drained? It's very popular to get drained for like the Solana meme coin community and the what we saw back in 20 and 21 with NFTs where people were clicking on God knows what and approving whatever contract that they were asked to approve. Okay, don't do that. Don't get botted. Don't get drained. Don't get your keys out. Period. That's just good hygiene. Make sure you revoke your approvals. Um, don't click on anything unless you validate a website first. Even if you validate a website, make sure the transaction makes sense. So you simulate it. That's why Rabby's great. Rabby simulates the transaction before it executes. And that's the beauty of really either purchasing or claiming. So if you're making a purchase, you're acquiring tokens and you're locking some tokens. Like if you're getting Velo and you're locking the Velo, okay, you're done. I mean, in the end, you should probably be doing only a handful of transactions per year other than claiming. And claiming, when you do a claim function in Rabby, it says, all right, you're going to get a bunch of tokens. It literally says it at the top of the screen, plus XXX amount of tokens. Execute this transaction, you will get these tokens. It simulates the transaction for you. So don't do anything unless it says you're going to get some tokens or you're locking some tokens. It tells you all the functions that you're executing when you execute using Rabby. Anyway, hope that helps. I don't know. It's been a long story, and I don't I don't know how much more I could tell people the same shit over and over again. But I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it helps people make better decisions. I I enjoy this conversation. Always have. Thank you all for joining me. Friday, May 23rd at 12:26 p.m. 459 people made it to the end of the stream, and together we are all that much more rational because of it. I wish you all a good weekend. Stay calm, cool, and collected, and I will see you guys and gals next week. Until then, peace.